JMats here from GenerationD20.com. This is round 2 of my online championship series. I forgot to start recording on the first turn, but just so you know, I was keeping a hand with 2 land, a leak, a drake, the mind control, and the dragon, and then since then drew into 2 more land. With the leak in hand, I was willing to keep with a land short of my first creature, just because I knew I could hold him off for a little bit. And Drake is always a nice place to start. Here, I do mono-leak. If it didn't have lifelink, and if I wasn't going to be dropping a 3-drop who could not block, I wouldn't have, but Child of Night actually could put some hurt on me early and would get him ahead in the race. Not to mention, if they're playing black or red, stopping those early drops so that they can't enable Bloodthirst can be pretty relevant. Here I consider playing the Sentinel to see if I could draw out some removal, but I decided that if he doesn't have it, then I'm just wasting turns that I could have been dealing damage. So I went with the Drake after all, and my other thought is if I could pull out the removal for the Drake, that I could then drop the Phantasmal Dragon. Of course, that was screwed up when that Alluring Siren hit, so suddenly the plan had to shift a little bit again. But it was, because I had the Griffin Sentinel, it wasn't bad. And as I got to this point, well, first of all, I was waiting for my opponent to play. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is the one where I lost my connection. If you look at the time, a whole bunch of time has passed, and I almost timed out because there was something weird and I couldn't get my internet working. Anyway, he seemed to continue to have some delays or problems throughout, and it didn't come down to the wire. It wasn't like one of us timed out, but it did continue to be somewhat of an issue throughout the match. So I apologize for the pausing as we go. But yes, I was thinking about whether I would mind control his Alluring Siren. Pretty much I had decided I wouldn't, because I would rather mind control a flying creature and keep the skies open for my fleet, and the Phantasmal Dragon just wasn't... I mean, he'd be nice to have, but he also is pretty fragile. That being said, if I drew into like a Ring Flesh, that Siren's gone in an instant, because the value or the upside is worth what you have to pay out for. Whereas a mind control on an Alluring Siren kind of means, I don't know, you need to stop playing Magic or something. So, the other thing that can be frustrating when someone isn't clicking through quick enough is that you'll end up missing steps or whatever because you're so hasty to then click and get it going. And fortunately, so far, I haven't had that problem. And Cutthroat is just fine, because technically the Griffin Sentinel can block him, and he can't block my guys. So as far as 4-drops go, I was very happy to see that. I don't know what exactly he was thinking about. And then the other thing with kind of signals and etc., I kind of, if I remember correctly, maybe he does attack with the Amp and Cutthroat, and I think I block because my feeling was if he had a relevant combat trick that he would have been using it already. Like if he had Sorin's Thirst, he was going to kill the Drake. He wasn't going to use it to finish off my Sentinel. And if he decided to use a Turn to Frog on my Griffin Sentinel, I would prefer that to the alternatives. But maybe that doesn't come up in this game. It seems like there was one game where I had a situation like that. The Satchel is huge because it can give you chump blockers. It can build up your life total or get you going a little faster. I did consider, before I played that I was going to be within mind rot range, and that not using the mind control or keeping it vulnerable in that way definitely left me available for that kind of blowout. So here, although am winning the battle as far as life total, I wasn't too pleased with the fact that he had 3 cards in hand, and I had none at that point. And if he was ramping to something big, like a Titan, or if he had a mind control of his own, things could get pretty sticky. And the satchel, I guess the downside is they know what you're drawing into. But the upside is I also knew, oh good, I have another flyer coming on board. And at 9 life, even the Griffin Sentinel or a team of Saprolines or anything like that, the 1 damage potential starts to kind of add up. Chasm Drake is a tough thing to run into here. But knowing that I'm going to have an Assault Griffin who could trade with the Chasm Drake, oh yeah, and that you can also use the satchel before or after you draw, so sometimes you already know the card's there. And I decided that I wanted an extra Saproline more than I wanted some other assorted thing. Here he's forcing the Griffin Sentinel to attack, so I'm going to lose it, but I'm going to have him at 6 life. And what I liked about that is it told me if I get any of my removal, then I'm attacking for lethal next turn. Of course, a Death Mark changed that, and now it's more like, am I willing to trade my Drake for his Drake? There would have been another good time to use the satchel before the turn, because I could have been placing the land out and drawing. I mean, even if it's another land, at least both of them would be out. But I didn't get to do that. And here he starts making a good play of using his Siren to force my Saprolines to attack. Basically kill off those Saprolines. Or maybe it's next turn. He could have done it last turn, and he probably should have. And so we wait. And Harbor Serpent, which is pretty relevant at this point since he's island walking, puts me on a 4-turn clock, and I have no relevant creatures. I'm beating him in the race for land, but that's about it. And knowing that my only mind control is already in the graveyard makes it tough too. When I saw the looter, I wasn't thrilled by the draw, but I also knew that between that and the satchel, it might actually be my best bet of being able to cycle into a win condition before I just lose. And yeah, here's where he started using the Siren to pick apart my Saprolines. And if I was him, I might have been attacking with the Cutthroat instead. Oh, and the Ring Flesh answered that anyway, so it continues to look a little bit gloomy. But fortunately, 1 card in hand, so he doesn't have a whole lot of options. And even that Benelish Veteran potentially provide something. What do we draw with or look at with the satchel this time? Oh, the Sphinx. Okay. So knowing the Sphinx was coming, I knew that I really needed to get him to 5 life. And if he was going to force one of my Saproleans to attack, I might as well attack with the other ones, because they would, I mean, one's going to die, and he has no other blockers. So getting to 4 then, it also kind of changed the dynamic on whether or not he could defend exclusively, or whether he could continue to attack. Now for him, he has to keep going for the Harbor Serpent and hope that he comes up with an answer for the Sphinx. For me, I had to hope that he, continued to tap out for my Saproleans, I guess, and let me go like that. I was hoping there wasn't a counterspell in his hand. That would be a very sad ending to my Sphinx. But when he resolved, I had the good fortune of having Stave Off as one of my options. And I kind of decided that the only way he was going to beat me at this point was if he could kill my Sphinx. And with the plane in hand that I could play out, I would be able to defend my Sphinx against whatever he could throw at me. So before he ever made piles, I decided that the Stave Off pile was the pile I was taking. The bad thing about Sphinx is people don't know what they're supposed to do, I guess, and so when this happens, it always seems to be this big, long, drawn-out period where you have to wait for your opponent to figure out, oh, I need 2 piles. So there he goes. Nice that I got the Frost Breath also, and if I was him on his side, I probably would have put it in the exact same order. But now with Stave Off, mana up, and I only attacked with the one with the Alluring Siren now because I figured chump blocking would be more relevant than anything else, and he was unwilling to even block there, which I thought was a little bit odd. And there was the win. So, paid off, had an Oblivion Ring on its way. But in that case, the Sphinx really did its job. Then, looking at what I was playing against, I considered Phantasmal Dragon and Phantasmal Bear because he has an Alluring Siren, and that did definitely put a damper on those. But I decided that he would have to draw that card. I only saw one, and the upside of those as aggressive creatures, and especially in a creature light deck, the upside of it was better than the downside of potentially having them stuck in my hand. So I decided to keep them in for this. For the most part, for sideboarding throughout the tournament, it was, if I was playing against black and they had really good black threats, I would swap out my Doom Blades and my Ring Flash and bring in like Frost Breath, Ice Cage, Unsummon, and just go with a 2-color. But even if they were playing black X and the X seemed to have some value, I would keep in the Doom Blades to get rid of those threats. And there might have been some other, I think I might have subbed in a Mighty Leap at one point in time. Oh, sideboarding. So then we have to wait for him to get done. And it feels almost worse doing it now than it did at the time, which you would think the anticipation of the game would have made it more stressful as I was sitting there playing, but no. Instead, it's the boredom of trying to talk and inform you about what happened. Although on my little preview, it looks like, yes, we're about ready to start game 2. This is a keepable hand, not an incredible hand. The inclusion of Aether Adept makes it a lot better, because even if I don't get a land until that 3rd turn, being able to bounce whatever he does can get the tempo back in my favor. And odds are, although I have more mountains than, or sorry, more islands than plains, odds are a plain will come up soon. A lot of creatures there, some good solid removal there, some flight. So I felt safe with this. And his deck, in game one had not been overly aggressive. So that was the other benefit. Now, of course, missing a land drop on turn 3 can be kind of a crippling blow, but he had missed a play on turn 2, which helped me out. And of all the times to mind rot, this was actually one of the best because I had so many options. I decided to stay with the creatures so I could build my board state and get rid of the other spells. Now, missing another land drop, that one's definitely hurting. And Phantasmal Dragon would have been nice to be able to pitch that, I suppose. And he either pondered into his land drop or just had it naturally. And now we have Doomblade. So, beginning to get concerned, but still not, rage quitting or anything, because he has not done anything. And I still have a lot of power as soon as the land come. And again, statistically, it should come, and it should come soon. Playing out Master Thief still didn't scare me at this point. I can block it with a Griffin Sentinel, I can trade with a veteran, or I can attack in and he can't trade with me. I got the third land. I think I decided to... Okay. Because he's attacking for 2, I'm attacking for 3, I decided to go with the veteran, just to apply the most power that I could on this turn. I also felt like if next turn he drops like a Sea Serpent or something, I want to be able to bounce that with my Aether Adept more than the Master Thief. And so I kind of held off on that. Other possibilities, if I get another land, could be Phantasmal Dragon, could be Pacifism plus Stormfront, Pegasus, or could be Aether Adept. And because his is a 3/3 with flying and mine's a conditional 3/3, I wanted to offer the trade first. Because you never know when people will take a trade which you think is not so profitable. I could have pacified him right away. That would have been another way, and get in for 3 assuredly. But I'd almost rather keep the pacifism and lose the veteran. The pacifism has more value to me than the veteran does. And he, I think, is thinking about it, unless he disconnected or something. Now, on his side, he's probably considering that I have all of that open mana and could have Mighty Leap or, I don't know, Turn to Frog or something like that. So he might be considering whether or not it would truly be a trade. And this is a place where sometimes you almost want to tell them it's not going to be a trade, like put out your Griffin Sentinel or put out whatever, so they know that you're not pulling those shenanigans. But at the same time, if you do that, then suddenly Chasm Drake might be more useful to him. That's why I love this game, because there is constant strategy on even most simple, strategies of whether you play something first or play something after the attack. And both can have a big effect on your opponent. I know in general they say play your spells after because it leaves more options, even if you don't have those options. But sometimes you want them to know you don't have the option. So from there, okay, I can see that play. I was because he has not cast any targeting spells, Phantasmal Dragon I think I considered to be a little bit more of a risky play, and bouncing the Drake made me think that he would most likely cast it again next turn. So I could force the exact same situation, or I could pacify and get in for 5, or, if I drew a swamp, could Doomblade and get in for 5. But it essentially made him lose a turn. Here I played the Stormfront just because he has no mana up. There's no reason sequentially why it would be beneficial. I don't need to bluff anything. So then having him down to 12 life, although he just got up to 6 mana, then it starts to be whether I can win the race. And that Consumed Spirit told me that he was a little bit concerned. Like, his hand might not have been as strong as it could be because he was willing to play what I considered to be a card more powerful than what he dealt with. Like, I would have taken out the Pegasus. So it either meant that he had an answer to flight, or it meant that he really thought that the 3 damage getting dealt was going to put him on a short clock. Of course, he then plays out the perfect card to answer my Phantasmal Dragon, which is fine. That's how the game goes, tit for tat. And I end up drawing into a pretty good answer to it, because whether I'm dealing 2 a turn or 3 a turn, if he doesn't get something in the air to stop me, it's only a matter of turns, and like 5 or 6. The other side of that is keeping up 3 for the crown can be difficult. If he has something, for example, a second Chasm Drake, he had to decide whether or not it was more important to cast that, or if it was more important to keep up crown. Here, I debated whether or not Frost Breath and just attacking in would be better. I decided that I would rather have yet another threat on the board, and then go for it, because I knew that his Crown of Empires would be able to slow me down, and also, getting the most value out of Frost Breath. If I get one more land, I could cast the Sentinel and the Frost Breath on the turn. If he plays another creature, I could tap both of them. And what I was really hoping is that he would play a creature like this. Is it a creature? No, it's another Consumed Spirit. So I didn't hope for that. I was hoping for a creature where he couldn't do Crown of Empires. So getting to there, I decided that it was now worth it to tap him down, because he didn't have Crown of Empires up, so I was going to get in for 5. And instead I get in for nothing, but I pull out another card from his hand. And I figure force the trade. And he was unwilling to do it. He knew that situationally he was going to be able to tap down that Drake in future turns, and my other flyers couldn't attack in. So it probably was a wise move not to take the trade. And then the concern of the appearing alluring siren, because now he can, pick off my creatures. He can force me to attack in and die. And if I remember correctly, this was the luckiest moment of the entire tournament, because I get a swamp. And with that, I am able to Doomblade. Oh yeah, that's right. So, although it was lucky, I don't think it was the wrong play. I think I still should have done exactly what I did. I believe it's the next turn where I actually get the luckiest play. But the thing about that is if I wasn't playing a satchel and wasn't forcing the card draw, I would be drawing a swamp next turn. So sometimes it's not just luck, it's, using your cards effectively. But when I do this, I find out that I have a mind control on the way. And because he, once again, didn't leave him up with Crown of Empires, I'm going to be able to get through with the team. I considered taking Harbor Serpent for a moment, because the Island Walk is a pretty big deal. But I decided that getting my whole team through, and especially on this turn, would be better. And it was enough to draw him out. Nothing but land coming up, so it was a good time to get finished. And that is round 2.